Hello and welcome to the Doctors Who Read Stuff. My name is Chris,
I'm Chip.
And I'm Brian.
and we hope that you are all social distancing, staying safe, and staying healthy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
We're keeping our 6 feet apart.
At least. Brian, what are you, like 2 miles from my house? 3?
Yeah,
And
thereabouts.
Chip, I don't know, you're
I'd say
probably
2.
15.
10 or
10.
15, probably closer to
We'll
15.
say 13. What the hell?
Wow.
Okay.
Well, today,
I'd say that's far
yeah,
enough.
I don't have any concerns about being that far away from Chip. I mean, obviously I'm very lonely,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to catch anything from him. So,
No,
True.
nor I you. So,
yes. Okay, so today we're going to kind of, what did we call it last week? The Mistborn Moratorium.
yeah.
But
Now that we've made it all the way through,
I think we wanted to take a stab at a very high level and just kind of like, okay, what is this book about? What did we like? What didn't we like? And where do we potentially see this thing going? So that, I think, is our format, right?
I think
Okay.
so.
Yeah,
That's what we talked
I
about.
like
Anybody
it.
want to take a crack at what happened in 30 seconds or less? Putting you on the
Oh, wow.
spot.
That's a big
It
ask.
is. I mean, I'm willing to make a
Well,
fool out of myself,
there's
but go
some
ahead.
ska, there's some nobles, there's some great houses. There's a ska named Vin who is part of a thieving crew that all of a sudden realizes that she's got powers because a man named Kelsier enters her life and teaches her some stuff. And he has his own crew, and they ended up kind of putting together a plan to overthrow the nobility and the Lord Ruler. And
They don't do things small.
it's got a cool magic system, kind of based on somewhat pseudosciency, based on
Mm-hmm.
metals and I don't know.
I mean, overall,
That's kind of it
yeah.
in a nutshell.
The
And then
It,
not
it
only that.
sorry,
Oh,
I
go
was
ahead.
just gonna say
oh, finish out, Brian. Good.
this is the
Nah.
problem with remote recording.
It's hard to read what's going
Yeah.
on.
Sorry, Brian.
Uh,
Please talk.
Brian looks like he has a thought.
oh, so at this point, Vin is developing her own abilities and talents. And of course, as they begin to attack the Lord Ruler and everything else, their leader, Kelsier, dies.
Kelsey A.
And
Kenobi.
so what do you do at that point?
Wait, spoil. Oh,
Oh, are we spoiling? Oh no.
I
Oh,
forgot
I'm
that part.
sorry.
No, I
No,
honestly I
go ahead.
think we're fine. I mean, we're not going
Okay.
to put no spoilers in the
We're
title. I mean, this
summarizing
is
all of it
we're
now.
summarizing the book and what happened, so you're good. Don't let Chip take you off
All
track. You
right.
were on a roll. Go.
So Kelsier more or less played the sacrificial victim, and Vin figures out what her role in this sort of ragtag team is, and she goes and she finishes the mission that Kelsier started.
Yeah.
And in the process, we learn that there's a whole lot more we don't really
Right.
know about this
Yeah,
universe. We almost end up with as many, if not more, questions at the end than we did at the beginning.
I would agree with that.
So, here's something I both liked and disliked. Um, Over the course of our 19 episodes of this thing, we commented time and time again that the magic system is so well thought out and so thoroughly documented, right? Everything, you
Hmm.
can reason why everything happens, which I think is really
Yeah,
impressive. But I also kind of like, let's go back to like Tolkien or Robert Jordan, where it's more this mystical force that you don't really understand. And I kind of
right.
like that aspect of it. It's like, it's not for us mortals to know how everything works. We just, yeah. So that's kind of something I liked and I didn't like. I mean, Tolkien and Wheel of Time are kind of my jam. So I like not having everything laid out and answered for me.
Sure.
I don't know. What do you guys think?
What I liked about it though, and having the system defined the way it was, and I don't disagree with your thought. I love those other books, and I love the mythical elements of them. But one thing, the way Sanderson defined Allomancy and ferrochemy, you don't really have the Deus Ex Machina, the God from the Machine, the all this big magical solution to everything. That the way he defined it was very scientific and very tangible. And it wasn't that all of a sudden, Vin could just go. She had a lot of powers, but she wasn't all powerful, and she couldn't, control all these mystical elements and just bend them to her whim. I mean, we still don't know what all Gandalf can do. We don't know what Rand can do with the one
Right.
power totally. It's just all these. It's kind of open ended. Where I think he kind of boxed himself into what was capable and not capable with the system.
Well, and I think it's these well designed and constructed magic systems are a direct result of a lot of authors just like using a magic wand to just resolve plot points.
Right.
I think that's where this came from, and
that's kind of what
yeah, what it kind of reminds me of is like, let's talk Star Wars. I mean, we kind of talk Star Wars with Kelsier and his kind of Obi-Wan arc, right? But let's talk about midichlorians for a minute.
Oh boy.
Really? Oh man.
Oh, man.
You're going
We're
there?
really
That's
going
what
here?
this reminds me of, right? Everything scientifically documented. That's what Lucas tried to do in the prequel trilogy with the Force. He tried to come up with a scientific reason for why this thing existed. And it took some of the magic and some of the mysticism and some of the wonder out of it.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say about midichlorians. That's the
thank
allegory.
goodness.
Allegory? No. Maybe. That's the comparison I'm drawing.
I don't know.
The metaphor.
Yeah.
I can't disagree with that.
But that being said, this is probably one of the best fantasy books cover to cover that I've read in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It's one that it kept me turning pages, and I've picked up and put down a lot of other books that I thought would be good, and this one was. So this one met my expectations going in.
Yes.
And one thing that this book did that like the Name of the Wind didn't do for me was it gave me a good sense of perspective from all of the characters' points of views. So in this book, every section, every chapter you had a different perspective, or in some cases within a chapter you had multiple perspectives. But that gave you, as the reader, a real sense of how big this world was. You could get a feel for what it was like to be an inquisitor. You could figure out what it was like to be Kelsier. You had all of these different components, and so you almost had this omniscient sort of presence while reading the book. But I was still so surprised at the end. It's like, despite being all-knowing, I still ended up knowing nothing going into that last chapter. So
no, and I would agree. The world feels a lot bigger than the world in Name of the Wind or the Kingkiller Chronicles. That one feels pretty small, if you will, just because we only have one point of view telling us about that world.
That's true.
Whereas I think, Brian, you're right that this one, with all the different points of view and the fact that we've got points of view from the Inquisitors, from some noble, or from Aelin, from Kelsier, from Vin, that you do get a pretty well-rounded view of everything.
I would agree.
I also liked that this one really it was a self-contained novel. I know that there's a lot of questions at the. If I read this and there were no other books, I would still be satisfied with the ending. It left things open for potential to do something else, but there was a lot of closure onto the main storylines that he had going on. So,
well, and it's kind of amazing that that's the case if we think about it, right? Because yes, we're satisfied with what he did, but also he planted enough seeds in that epilogue where you're like, holy crap, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I thought the ending was just really masterfully done.
It was solid. It was a good ending.
But speaking of the epilogue and planting the seeds, where do you guys see this going?
So if I remember right, it's like at this point everyone's kind of disbanding. Everyone's, they're all kind of going. Sazed's going his own separate way to like piece together with his people all of the history, and some of the crew sounds like they're going to be leading the army or they're going to be like helping rebuild the empire. Vin is going off, and I think she's going to be learning more about Verukami and how it mixes with Allomancy and the mists. She talked about the importance of the mists, and like she just like touched on it in the very
Mm-hmm.
last couple pages. I feel like that's got to be where it's going. She's got to be exploring her power and the ability to make her own metal stores. Like I'd love to see them go down that route.
Yeah, and I think another piece that we touched on in other episodes was the deepness, and we still don't know what happened with the
Right.
deepness. We know that the Lord Ruler somehow defeated it.
Or at least kept it at
Did he
bay.
kill it, or kind of kept it,
Yeah.
from doing something to the people? So now that the Lord Ruler is dead, what's going to happen with that storyline? And I assume that that's going to have to be something that Vin has to deal with, or somebody has to deal with sometime here in the next couple of books.
Is the next
Yeah.
book called Well of Ascension? Am I remembering that
I
correctly?
believe so.
That would lead.
I think
that
so.
would lead me to
believe
believe that
so.
they have to go there.
Maybe.
I mean, it would. They wouldn't have called the Wizard of Oz the Wizard of Oz if they weren't going to Oz, right?
Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
One thing.
I-
Sorry, Brian. I can jump into my point after you go because it's kind of like
Go ahead. Yep.
diverting and tangenting off into other things.
Oh.
So.
The other thing I would really like, Vin mentioned, a couple times throughout, but we talked about Kelsier's wife.
Yes.
And how she had a drawing about like the green plants and the fact that, you have these volcanoes erupting and ash falling. And it's like, all right, I hope that there's some sort of return to normalcy or explanation as to why things are the way they are, because we're still kind of living in a weird world here. I'm hoping book 2 goes into more of the explanation as to why that happened.
Yeah.
That's a good point, and not one that I had actually considered since we finished. It's like, yes, they have this idea of what the world once was, but is the arc that is being explored, is that something that Sanderson's going to take us in that direction where we get to actually see the restoration of the world? It's a good thought.
It's an interesting thought.
And I also wonder if we're ever going to find out if Mare really did betray Kelsier or if it was just the Lord Ruler messing with his head.
Oh, good point.
Because I don't think we know that.
Good point.
Not
No.
for sure. I think I like
think
to
we have our
believe that Vin
suspicions,
was right,
or,
and that
yeah.
that the Lord Ruler manipulated the situation and then used it to his advantage. And Mare, he was able to pierce her copper cloud or whatever they called it. That,
Yeah. So, I don't know. I just have the feeling that, like I said, this is the tip of the iceberg. And I think from comments we've gotten on our video discussions of this book, this Sanderlanche is nothing compared to other Sanderlanches. So,
yeah.
Oh boy.
And that was, I didn't mind the whole Sanderlanche moment when everything kind of crashed together. But there were some points in the book that I felt like certain scenes were pretty forced, just to, he needed to get this person in this position to move the plot line together. Or, the one where Kelsier and Vin broke into Creditshaw the first time to get to the room within a room, and they just kind of like waltzed right in and then got the crap beaten out of them, and barely escaped. But it just seemed like, I don't know, some of that just felt forced to be able to move certain plot lines forward.
Well, and we saw that with Name of the Wind too, when
with Denna.
When
she appeared in
he
the
raced
village
north because of the Chandrian sighting and she was there, that felt a little ham-fisted.
Yeah, it did.
I mean,
but like I said, it was just a few scenes that really felt that way, so it didn't ruin the book or the experience for me. But it was just, But I think sometimes authors they put themselves in a position where it's like, I've got to move these characters into a position to, finish out this plot line. So how do I get them
there? At least they came up with a good way of getting from town to town quickly, and that was what was it? Peter Dragon.
Pewter Dragon.
Peter Dragon.
Pewter Brian.
Oh, Pewter. Pewter dragging. That's right.
Peter might have been dragging after you pewter
Uh,
dragged, but
he was all pewtered out.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. We'll be here all
We will be.
week.
Yes. So what I was going to say before was we had talked about this, just between the three of us when we were recording. But I said, because we do have kind of an abundance of time since we can't go anywhere now. If one or two of us were to continue reading this trilogy and making videos about it, would that be something that maybe the viewers would be interested in? See,
I do definitely want to keep reading
yeah.
them. So.
This would be your opportunity to tell us in the comments if that's something that would appeal to you as a watcher / listener if we were to continue doing that. I will say it's also a lot easier to get together and do this when we don't have to physically travel to the same location too.
Yeah.
So,
very true.
It's not as fun.
It's not, but
you know.
I mean, they're doing amazing things with technology these days.
That's true.
Yes, they are.
Okay, last question for you guys. And I think I know the answer. And I think
42.
based on our conversation, everybody else does too. But would you recommend this book to somebody who hadn't read it?
I would.
Well, I mean, we already kind of spoiled what happened. So chances are that people that haven't read it are probably not still listening.
Yeah,
But,
I hope
point.
not.
Yeah.
Well, I would definitely recommend it. I feel like it's a strong science fiction book that has a lot of human elements to it. I think there's a lot of humanness in the characters, and I think they're easily relatable.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, and it's also not, I hate to say this, but there are some sci-fi books that end up being more of like a love triangle, and I'm not a fan of love triangle books.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a much better constructed novel than other ones I've
Not
read.
just love triangles, but like poorly written romance plot lines.
Yeah.
Yes. I despise those books.
Name of the Wind had that to an extent with his infatuation with Denna. Like, I was just like, oh. But, I mean, it was not as bad as, like... So the Dune books that Frank Herbert's son continued with Kevin J. Anderson, there's a lot of, like, romance plotline stuff in there that's just hardly readable. So when it's done correctly, it can be great, but it's kind of a slippery slope.
Yeah.
It is.
What I liked about this was that it had a lot of good dark elements, but it wasn't dark fantasy and it wasn't grim. There was kind of a lining of hope that kind of permeated the whole story. So, and the way it was written, it's not really it's not classified as a young adult book, but I think it would be accessible to people, younger people that have read, Harry Potter and other fantasy books. That it wasn't.
I would agree.
It's kind of all ages,
Sanderson actually wrote a YA novel. I think
Did
my
he?
wife has it.
Is it like Alcatraz or something like
Maybe
that?
it's called like Stoneheart, maybe? I don't know. Hold on. Let me check the Googles. But yeah, I was pretty sure my wife was like, oh, hey, Brandon Sanderson wrote a YA novel.
Oh, yeah.
She
it
knew
was
who I was.
He only writes like a book a
I know.
month. So.
Steelheart.
Steelheart, that was it.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're right.
Yeah. What did I say? Stoneheart?
Yeah.
I must have been thinking.
I'll give
I
it
must
to
have
you.
been.
That's pretty
I
good.
was probably going like Lady Stoneheart from Game of Thrones or something. I don't know, but
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, she knew him because I'm obsessed with Wheel of Time series, and he finished those books, and so she knew the name from that.
So.
I've actually got Sanderson's autograph on 2 of my Wheel of Time books, actually. 3, technically.
Nice.
I have 2 of them from A Memory of Light because the first one had a printing error. So the bookstore I got it from had Sanderson come back in, re-sign all of them, and they sent out fresh copies to everybody without the printing error.
That's cool.
That's pretty cool.
That's
Yeah.
pretty neat.
Anything else you want to say about this book? No?
I recommend it.
It's recommended.
It's good.
If you
Yeah.
have friends who haven't read it, they should. And if they want to, they can kind of follow along with our Mistborn playlist, which we will link up at the end of this video. And then they can go kind of a couple chapters at a time and follow along with us and kind of see our thoughts, throw some stuff in the comments section, and kind of keep that a little bit alive. So that would be kind of fun, I think. Because I would certainly love to occasionally come back and revisit
Awesome.
certain plot points in certain areas of this. So just a thought. And then next time we will be back at you with our first episode on the Witcher series, The Last Wish by Andrzej
Sapkowski.
Wow.
Sapkowski.
That was
Andrzej Sapkowski.
Anjay. I
You
kind of
guys,
remember it
good job.
because it kind of sounds like Sanjay Gupta.
Oh, yeah.
Heard his name a few
Yeah,
times.
just a little bit. Okay. Everybody, please continue to stay safe. Stay 6 feet away from each other. In a year's time, when somebody comes back and watches this, they're going to be like, what are they even talking about? Oh, the COVID. So anyway, we would like you all to be safe, healthy, and definitely keep watching. We love having you.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Until
We'll
next
see ya.
time, Alonzi.